Hello class! Once again I want to thank you for taking the time to give me feedback about the course and myself as an instructor. I hope that you are learning in this class, and I also try to accommodate some of your needs. It was such a nice surprise to see that you all completed the work before 5 o'clock today, even though you asked for extension. I was not able to give you more than 8 o'clock, but I hope that those extra hours will be helpful for you. In today's module, I noticed 3 different avenues that you took in addressing the needs of students with emotional or behavioral disorders. Some of you, and specifically Christine, Abigail, and Lindsay, addressed definitions and classifications of students with emotional or behavioral disorders, whereas Jennifer and Megan, they were more specific on characteristics. Adria's resource addressed specifically anxiety issues, whereas Rachel, Audrey, and Delane, they provided more an overview of services, characteristics, and other issues relevant for this population. I thought that Ashley, Taylor, Nate, Brittany, and Sophie did a very good job on addressing issues related to instructional strategies and ways to support students with EBD in our classrooms. As you have noticed in today's readings, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act uses the term emotional disturbance to describe this population. So the term emotional disturbance means a condition exhibiting one or more of the following characteristics over a long period of time, and to a marked degree that adversely affects a child's educational performance. As the video indicated, not everybody who has a disability is going to be eligible for IDEA services or special education services. So what it is important to understand is who are going to be the students who are going to receive those services. And to get those services, it is important, this part when you can see here, adversely affects a child's educational performance. So in order for a student to receive services under IDEA, that condition, in this regard, these characteristics here have to affect that student's educational performance. So we have these students who have that inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. So these are the students who actually any issues in regard to their intellectual ability, sensory, or any other health issues. They have that inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers. They display these inappropriate behaviors or feelings under normal circumstances. They have a general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression and a tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personal or school problems. The term emotional disturbance under IDEA includes students who have schizophrenia, but does not include students who are socially maladjusted, unless it is determined that they have an emotional disturbance. So who are the students that are socially maladjusted? The term socially maladjusted applies to individuals whose social behaviors are atypical. Oftentimes, these are the students who are regarded as chronic social offenders. As you have noticed here, the IDEA uses the term emotional disturbance. Because of perceived difficulties inherent within the federal definition, the Council for Children with Behavioral Disorders in 2000 proposed a more functional and workable definition. So instead of the term emotional disturbance, the term that is recommended is students with emotional or behavioral disorders. This term is generally more accepted in the field today because it has greater utility. It is more representative of the students who experience problems with their emotions, their behavior, or both of them. And also, it is less stigmatizing than emotional disturbance. I like that some of your resources talked about who these students are and what are some of the things that we must be looking for in regard to identifying but also supporting them both academically and behaviorally. Overall, you have noticed from your resources posted that these are the students who might display externalizing or internalizing behaviors. With externalizing behaviors, We have those students who are involved more in acting out and non-compliant behaviors. These are the students that might be involved in aggression, acting out, self-destructive behaviors, and so forth. Whereas internalizing behaviors include behaviors such as withdrawal, depression, anxiety, obsessions, and compulsions. Students who display internalizing behaviors, they have poor social skills and are less socially accepted than their typically developing peers. Other characteristics that you have noticed, and this website does a good job on just listing what behaviors might be seen, are difficulties with their school performance. Like these students might academically perform below grade level. They might function 2 or more years below grade level in reading, math, writing, and spelling. Knowing characteristics of students with emotional or behavioral disorders will help us understand the challenges that these students are facing in daily basis. As future teachers, you have to equip yourself with strategies that are going to support these students both academically and behaviorally. When talking about students with emotional or behavioral disorder, we must mention positive behavioral support. Positive behavior support is a school-wide approach that is designed to prevent problem behaviors before they occur, and when they occur, to intervene early to prevent them from escalating further. The idea of positive behavior support is to respond proactively rather than reactively, which was typical for the traditional school responses, especially towards students with emotional or behavior disorders. Positive behavior support is evidence-based problem-solving intervention strategy for dealing with problematic behaviors. Positive behavior support is seen as a data-driven, team-based framework or approach for establishing a continuum of effective behavioral practices and systems that prevents the development or worsening of problem behavior and also encourages the teaching and reinforcement of pro-social expectations and behavior across all environments for all students by all staff. A positive behavior support model is designed to address the complexity of problematic behaviors through such efforts as promoting academic achievement, involving the family, emphasizing positive, nurturing relationships between students and staff, and identifying problematic behaviors before they become chronic and severe. PBIS recognizes that problematic behaviors are often the result of both student and environmental variables. So the focus of the positive behavior support model is prevention. The prevention model identifies 3 critical levels of prevention. The goal of the school-wide intervention team at the primary prevention or universal level is to reduce the number of new cases of problem behavior. The secondary prevention or targeted level is designed to minimize the possibility that students at high risk will engage in misbehavior. And the third level is the most intensive level of prevention and is known as tertiary prevention, which includes interventions designed for the individual student. The purpose of tertiary prevention is to provide appropriate supports and interventions for students with chronic and intensive problem behaviors. In addition to the strategies that were identified and suggested in some of your resources, I would say that if you really want to support these students, you have to apply principles of human behavior. So what are these principles? If you are interested in strengthening the existing behavior, you have to apply positive reinforcement principle. What does that mean is that you need to provide positive reinforcement immediately after the desired behavior occurs. For example, you might praise the child following task completion. Also, if you want to strengthen or increase the existing behavior, you might use PREMAC principle. PREMAC principle is that first you work, then you play. This way you will allow the child to engage in a favored activity immediately following the occurrence of the desired behavior. For example, after completion of a disliked math assignment, then you will allow the child to complete a favored activity such as putting a puzzle together. Also, another principle that will help is contingency contracting principle, which means that you as a teacher will specify in writing the desired behavior and the positive consequences will follow if the child engages in that desired behavior. For example, allow the child to listen to preferred music following the observance of the desired behavior. If you are interested in developing new behaviors, then you might want to apply successive approximation principle, which means that you are going to reward successive steps to the desired behavior. For example, For a problematic off-task behavior, you first will reward the child for staying on task for about 5 minutes, then for 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, and so on. So you are increasing, instead of having the student to stay in task for 15 minutes total, you're giving them a chance to step by step increase the amount of time and be successful. Modeling principle is also important because it will allow the child to observe a prestigious person engaging in the desired behavior, especially if that person is somebody that the child prefers or favors over others. For example, for a problematic behavior such as handwriting behavior, then you might want to have a peer demonstrate the correct letter formation, and then the student will model that formation. Cueing principle will teach a child to engage in a particular behavior at a certain time. That means that you will provide a cue or a prompt just before the desired behavior is expected. Principle 4 might also be helpful, which is the discrimination principle. And with this principle, you'll be able to teach a child to engage in a specific behavior under one set of circumstances, but not another. Help the child only when his or her behavior is appropriate to the cue. For example, you might reinforce the child to use an inside voice when the child is in the classroom, but not on the playground. If you're interested in decreasing or extinguishing undesired behaviors, then you might want to use extinction. What that means is you will arrange conditions so that the child receives no reinforcement of following the undesired behavior. Talking out behavior might be an example of using this principle. Also, reinforcement of incompatible behaviors, which means that you are going to reinforce on-task behavior to decrease the child's out-of-seat behavior. Response cost is another principle that you might want to apply. That means that you will arrange conditions so that something the child considers reinforcing is taken away when the inappropriate behavior occurs. For example, you might want to take away television privileges when the child engages in a fight with a peer. As many of your resources indicated, there are various ways that you can support these students. So it is important that you also focus on what accommodations you can make. So how can I make the learning environment that is going to be beneficial for these students? And as long as you explore the ways and find the way that it's going to respond best to the individual student, that is going to be the most beneficial way of supporting them. Overall, you did a great job in this module, and I look forward to tomorrow's module. Thank you.